All right, so first off, I want to say all praise to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakah Kodash. Or in English, that would mean all praise to Yahweh in the name of his son, Yahushai. Also, I want to say double honors to the elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, and also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel, Lord, with the name of that number. All right, so this video is going to be about retribution, consequences and retribution. Okay, so this is what we're going to speak about here. All right, for a little bit. All right, so on the subject of consequences and retribution, all right, we're going to go from the giving of the law, okay, to Israel's fall, right, and then ultimately to the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Ba'al Shai and his elect. All right, so Yahweh gave Israel, okay, his laws, statutes, and commandments. All right, he chose one specific people above all others and gave them his laws, statutes, and commandments as a covenant. All right. This was supposed to be our lifestyle, all right, our wisdom, and our separation from the heathen. All right. This was our everything, and it is still our everything today. Okay. We go through the things that we do because we fell away from these things. All right. So let's start here in Deuteronomy 7 and 6. All right. It reads, "For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thy power. The Lord thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth." And that sums up what we just spoke at the beginning. All right, he gave us our laws, our statutes and commandments as a covenant. All right, to be our lifestyle, our wisdom, and what it is what made us separate or holy. Okay, what made us separate from the heathen. All right. Also, again, Psalm 147 and 19 through 20, it reads, "He showeth his word unto Jacob," all right, which Jacob's name was turned to Israel. This is where the 12 tribes of Israel came from. All right. It doesn't mention any other people. It says, "He showeth his word unto Jacob," which is us. Okay. All right. So he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any other nation, or with any nation, excuse me. It says, "And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh Ba'al Shai." So these other nations don't know the Lord. All right. The Lord deals with us and us alone as a nation. All right. Yahweh gave only us the blueprint of life. Okay. He gave that to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That is where the bulk of the Israelites are. Okay, no other nation received this contract. All right, and that's very important to understand here. Okay, so now for falling away, there were consequences to that. All right, there were consequences for us turning away from this contract. All right, because we had the covenant, we faced the highest accountability. All right, when we turn to the customs of these heathens and worship false gods or idols, right, and broke the dietary laws and all these other laws, right, Yahweh brought these curses upon us. All right, you can read those in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, starting at verse 15. Now, that chapter goes all the way to 64, and from 15 on, it lists all these curses that would be upon us for a sign and a banner to who we are. All right. Also, you can go to Amos 3 and 2, which reads, "You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities." You see, same thing. Okay, he's dealing with us. All right, when we break the laws, it deals with us. Yes, people go through bullshit. These other nations go through it too. That's all because we fell. All right, if we are going through it, all right, they're going to go through something because we fell. You know, everything is out of order. All right, so Now, speaking of Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Yeah, let's go there and read that really quick. Hold on a second here. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Hold on, I don't know why this computer is acting slow all of a sudden, man. I don't even have half as many windows open as I usually do. This mugger is slow. Deuteronomy 28:15, it says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I commanded thee to this day, that all these curses should come upon thee and overtake thee." I do want to get in here and look at this word for overtake. All right, hold on a second here. Overtake. Here's the word. Lord willing, you can hear it.
Strong's H 5381. Nasag. Nasag.
All right, so what does this word mean? It says to reach, to overtake, to take hold upon. So no matter what time or period that we were living in this place, as an Israelite, these things are going to overtake you. All right, they're going to take hold upon you. They're going to overtake you. They're going to reach you. Whether you lived in the 2000s, the 1900s, the 1800s, all the way back to the BC times, all right? These curses were going to reach you. It's not just a one and done deal, okay? They're going to be on us for a sign and a banner forever until until Yahweh, why Yahweh Shai comes back, until the Lord sends Yahweh Shai back here, okay? This is how it's going to be, all right? For a consequence, all right? So let's go back here now. All right. So now let's visit Baruch 4 and 6. Okay, what things did we go through? All right, we go through a lot of things on a daily. All right, but usually when you hear, a lot of us go to Deuteronomy 28 and 64, which puts you in mind of those slave ships, right? Slavery. Okay, which the transatlantic slave trade was one of the worst things to happen to us as a people. All right, Israel has suffered more than any other people in this nation. I mean, on this planet. Okay, we have gone through the most because, again, it was as a consequence for our disobedience, man, for breaking the Lord's laws that He gave to us. Okay, so let's talk about why we were sold like that. All right, Baruch 4 and 6 reads, "Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because ye moved Yahweh Baal Shem Yahweh Shai to wrath, or because ye moved God to wrath, ye were delivered unto the enemies." All right. Again, a consequence for our actions, man. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get the definition for consequence as soon as this computer stops acting up, man. All right. Define consequence. And then we're going to do something else. Hold on. Okay. Define consequence. All right. Here it is. The word consequence. All right. A consequence is the result, effect, or outcome of an action, decision, or situation. All right. So the result for going against the Lord is what? Everything that you see happening in the Yasharallah. All right. Including this slavery. It lists all that in Deuteronomy 15. All right. In Deuteronomy 28, excuse me, starting at the 15th verse. It lists that. Okay. Now let's ask this: of since the subheading above the 15th verse, it's consequences of disobedience. Let's see what is meant by that. What is meant by the phrase? All right. Consequences, consequence for disobedience. All right, let's see what it says real quick. The phrase consequence for disobedience means facing a specific, often negative result or penalty as a direct result of failing to follow rules. You see? And this was the Lord's rules. And yeah, these things are harsh. But the Lord told us what was going to happen, all right, when we disobeyed him. So here we are. All right. It says, let me read that again. Facing a specific, often negative result or penalty as a direct result of failing to follow rules, orders, or established authority. It also goes on to say it establishes a cause and effect relationship where breaking a rule leads to a predictable outcome. All right, core concepts, the cause, all right, disobedience, the deliberate refusal or failure to obey a command, law, or behavioral norm. All right, the effect, all right, the consequence. It says the resulting penalty, outcome, or repercussion enforced by an authority figure or as a natural result of the action. See, consequences, all right, cause and effect, right? Disobedience, consequence. Okay. So let's go back here now. Again, Baruch 4 and 6. Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because ye moved Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to wrath, ye were delivered unto the enemies. Right? So the curses of Deuteronomy 28, all right, which includes slavery, all right, everything that we went through, the lynchings, the poverty, the loss of identity, and being at the bottom of society. All right, basically our enemies ruling. All right, these are the direct consequences of breaking Yahweh's laws. All right, the heathens, all right, are simply, all right, they're simply the whip that Yahweh used to punish us. All right, but they're going to have to deal with their consequences also. Okay, let's talk about the retribution really quick. All right, the retribution on the 2/3. All right, the retribution begins at the house of Israel, begins with us. All right now in this land, 2/3, that's every three, two out of every three Israelites. All right, of 2 out of every 3 of our own people refuse to wake up, acknowledge the Lord. All right, they love America. Right? They love Babylon the Great. They love the ways of these other nations. They love the ways of Esau Edom, who is a so-called and self-called white man. All right, and they reject Yahweh Shai. Therefore, you know what that means. All right, they're gonna die in a painful death. All right, by sword or or pestilence, all right, diseases, and all right, nuclear fire isn't off the table. All right, that's coming. All right, only to be reborn in the kingdom in their right minds. Yes, all Israel is going to be in the kingdom, but how are you going to get there? All right, through death by pain. All right, or are you going to come over to the right side? All right, and be born back into the kingdom, be changed upon Yahweh Bashim Shai's return. Okay, be translated into the kingdom. All right. That's the way I want to go. That's the way all the brothers hope to go. That's why we call ourselves the hopeful elect. Okay. But you 2/3 out there that refuse to repent and change and come back to the ways of the Lord. All right. This is what's going to happen to you. Okay. Zechariah 13 and 8. It says, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. All right. We're going to be cool, but you're going to be cut off and die, man. All right. Again, Ezekiel 9 and 6. All right. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Now, when it says mark here, all right, it's talking about the Lord's mark. There's duality. All right. You have the Lord's mark, and Esau Edom has his mark. All right. Esau Edom is a physical mark. The Lord's mark is a spiritual mark. Esau Edom's mark is the charagma, the micro C hip. All right. The Lord's is the Thawa. Okay. The exemption from judgment. All right. Which one do you want? All right. We want the Tawah. All right. A lot of you Israelites though are gonna die as a consequence of this sihib. Either one, because you receive it, or two, because you might not take it, but you still ignored the Lord. You still think you're gonna save yourself. All right. Either way is not a good way. You want to have the Lord with you, man. Okay. Let's visit Malachi 4 and 1. Again, speaking about this destruction. All right. The retribution of the Lord on his people. All right. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yeah, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. You hear that? All right. You are proud. You are walking in a proud way. You know, Esau Edom's pride and got onto you niggas out there, man. Okay. So being an Israelite by blood isn't going to save you. If you do not have faith, all right, if you don't have the faith of Yahweh Shai, all right, you're dead. You are dead. All right, you're not going to be saved. You have to turn to the Lord completely, man, to the best of your ability. But the wicked of our people are going to face the exact same physical destruction that the heathens are facing, because that's who they're holding on to. All right. Now let's talk about you damn heathen nations, man. The total retribution on you heathen nations. All right. You were used by Yahweh to punish us, man. All right. That's it. That's all, and that's it, dude. You're gonna face consequences for that. All right, because you took it too far. All right, and you helped forward our affliction. All right, you didn't let up. You just kept going with it. All right, but now, all right, if you look around, and when you look around, you can tell that the tables are turning. All right, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai and the elect are going to be we're going to execute physical vengeance upon you people, man. All right, at the return of the Lord. I'm not saying that it's going to happen now. We're not to take up arms against you now or be violent with you now, but when the Lord comes back, all right, he's going to have certain brothers do shit, man. Okay, so we are going to conquer the earth and put the heathens into hardcore captivity and bondage, man. Slavery. All right, Esau likes slavery. We love it, man, because it's coming right back. All right, it's coming back in a big way. All right, let's go to Obadiah 1 and 15 real quick. All right, it says that for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. That reward shall return upon thine own head. That's your ass, man. All that shit you was doing down here, you about to pay for it. All right, the Lord said it. You can take it up with him if you want to when you get here, but hey, it's not going to go in your favor. All right, Psalm 149. Starting at verse 6, it says, let the high praises of Yahweh Baal Shem Yahweh Shai be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people and bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. All right, hardcore slavery. Okay, and who is he going to do that through? All right, the ones that have the praises of Yahweh Baal Shem Yahweh Shai in their mouths. All right, the men, the elect men. All right. We're going to be given spiritual power, and then the Lord's going to send us out, man. Okay. And we ain't going to come back empty handed, just as his word didn't come back empty handed. All right. Let's visit Revelation chapter 2, starting at verse 26. It says, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. All right. Again, what do you think that means? Ruling with a rod of iron, getting power over the nations. All right. You're going to see. You're definitely going to see Isaiah 14, starting at verse 1. For the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai will have mercy on Jacob, is Israel. All right, hold on for a second here. Hold on. This computer acting up. All right, the heading says Israel's taunt. Isaiah 14 and 1. For the Lord Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. All right, we're going to be set over there by the Lord. We ain't going to ask any man to put us over there and write a fucking what is a declaration. All right, the Lord is going to put us there. All right, with them chariots. Okay, let me start at the top of that. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. All right, them strangers being those scattered Israelites. All right. It says, verse 2 says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in their land. For the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai for servants and handmaids again. Hey, yo, you're going to be working. All right. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So y'all keep it up, man. Y'all keep this shit up. All you doing is showing who you are, bro. All right. We were supposed to be brothers, but y'all took it too far. Y'all fucked up. All right. So hold on a second here. Okay. So let me so the meaning of them scriptures, all right. True justice, all right, is an eye for an eye. All right. The nation that enslaved Israel, all right, you can put an S on that too. The nations that enslaved Israel will be enslaved by Yahweh Shai and the elect. All right, Esau Edom, which is the top ruling class of this current world. That's how we know who Esau Edom is, and know everyone that looks so-called white is not an Edomite. Just like everyone that has melanation is not an Israelite. All right, y'all got to listen to what we saying, man. Okay, all right, but y'all gonna serve. All right, y'all gonna serve 1,000 years. You heathen nations are gonna serve 1,000 years of hardcore slavery, man. All right, and then Esau Edom is gonna be destroyed. Right? You other nations gonna have your own land and all that, but y'all ain't gonna be thinking about these motherfuckers y'all call gods now, your idols and all that. All right, y'all gonna know who the true power is, man. We're gonna kick y'all ass if y'all don't obey. Okay? So Esau gonna be utterly destroyed though. All right, he gonna be gone. All right, gone. So I typed in what is some historical and modern relevance to this. Okay, it says ancient context. Right, it says in the ancient world, Israel constantly fell into idolatry, worshiping Baal, Ashtoreth, right, the Queen of Heaven. Okay, Queen of Heaven worship. All right, so Yahweh Baal Shem Al Shai sent prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel to warn them of consequences, but they mocked the prophets until Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians and later by the Romans in 70 AD. As far as today, all right, we are at the very end of our punishment. All right, us hopeful elect. All right, well, we'll just say the elect. All right, the elect are definitely waking up and returning to the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. All right, through faith in Yahweh Shai. All right, understanding retribution is critical right now because it gives the remnant patience and hope. All right, we don't pick up carnal weapons today. And I have to stress that. All right, although we went over hardcore slavery and the Lord putting the spiritual power on us to do what we're gonna do upon His return, that is no green light, and that is no way meant to even hint towards picking up a carnal ass weapon today and trying to do something with it. We are waiting on the Lord, man. Okay, we are waiting on Yahweh and Yahweh Shai to give us the spiritual power to execute His judgment. All right. So, Lord willing, that was edifying, straight to the point. With that, I want to say all praise to Yahweh, Baal Shem Al Shai, Baal Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. All right, Lord willing, I'm of that number. And Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.